Welcome to the Mission Shaped podcast. My name's Mark Robinson and I'm on the ops team at Fresh Expressions. Today, I'm chatting with Fiona Barber. Fiona, good morning and welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
How are you this fine, glorious day?
I'm all right, thank you. Looking forward to having a good chat about what we're doing here.
Indeed. Well, Fiona, why don't we just get straight into it, as I often like to do. Tell us a little bit about where you are and tell us a little bit about your community. And would really love to hear about how and why it started.
So I'm a just third year curate in Derby. And I've been placed in my curacy in a parish that has a massive amount of new housing that's being built. 4,500 homes will be added to our parish by the end of my, in about 10 years, I would imagine, way beyond my curacy. So I used the word vision for this, but it's not really the right word, I suppose, because it was the idea of what could be. There is no vision because we can't see what's going to happen here. There was an intention of seeing how we could reach this new housing. And that's something that a lot of parishes, a lot of people across the country are facing in the areas that they're doing ministry. So we, the diocese were brilliant. We put a proposal forward and they purchased a house in the new housing. And I think that's key to our story. It's not that I'm ordained. This is about anybody who wants to reach a community. The key to the story here is that I live here. So although everyone knows who I am actually a neighbour first and foremost. And that's been key to what's happened here. So when I first moved in, I was one of the first 5 houses in this part of the new housing. There was already one area of about 130 houses opposite ours that had been built, and then a little bit further down the road, another 150 houses. So there was some formed communities already, but this was a forming community. So our story is quite specific. There's loads of different ways of reaching and out to new housing, but this is quite specific in that I live here and it is just forming. And when I arrived, I discovered that it's a very multicultural estate and people have a real desire to belong. So I set out not really knowing what I was doing and just, we talk about seeking and joining in with what God's doing. And that really was a sense of that here. This is a very windy place. We noticed that because there's fields at the moment, which sadly will be built on, but the wind comes off the fields and we hear it so often. And it blows our gazebo around quite a bit as well. But I just get a real sense of that's the Holy Spirit, that wind, that just reminds me on a daily basis that God was here already and we literally are joining in. And it feels a bit uncomfortable being in a place where you have no idea what you're doing or where you're going or what it's going to look like, but just being led by what God is doing already. And that I've been here 18 months now, and there's a real sense of God leading us.
I do. I love that reminder of just wherever you go, wherever there are groups of people wherever there are groups of people, community just forms around whatever it is. And it's that thing of us, I always think of that stuff of we're made in the image and likeness of God and we're made to be in relationship with God. And so if we're made to be in relationship with God, we're made to be in relationship with each other as well, obviously. And so our desire to be in relationship is what drives community. It's a base thing. I think I can't think of anyone who doesn't want to be in community of some sort. Even those of us who might be introverted, I still love community. I like to have fun on my own as well, but yeah, it's that fun thing of yeah, the natural thing of just we're made to be in community, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so many people who have moved here, we've started sort of gathering people to build, intentionally to build community. And so many people keep saying, I've lived in other places before and I've not even known my neighbours' names. And that may be something to do with their character. You know, they may be introverted, they may be shy. But here, they're feeling comfortable enough to come out and join with other neighbours for a cup of coffee and a cupcake under a gazebo, and just chat and get to know people. And there's been a real sense of desire to belong from people from all countries, all faiths, no faith. People just want to get to know each other and belong.
Well,
I started, you know, to try and gather people at Easter last year with a sort of meet your neighbour. So there were only 24 houses here, but 18 people came for a cup of coffee at our house. And I thought, yeah, this is something. It was a massive risk to do this. We had no idea whether it would work because we didn't really know what we were doing. But to just sort of test the water and start to see, and having that, the ability to just start off by building community and seeing where God went with that was a real gift. And I think for me, having that intention, it takes the pressure off a bit. You're building community, you're a neighbour, and that sort of happens naturally anyway. But to do it intentionally, to be gathering people and encouraging people and keeping an eye out for, like, we use the language of gatekeepers and people of peace, don't we?
Right.
And that became very obvious very quickly here. There's a gentleman who is, I refer to him now as our blue sky thinker. He has the big ideas. He wanted, when we met that very first Easter, he said, right, we're going to have a summer street party. It's going to be like Glastonbury. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, we could do that. And then very quickly starting to recognise those people that then say, oh, yeah, we could do this. We could do it down there because that's a safe space where the kids can run around and there's no cars. And starting to spot people who you can connect with and link in with and encourage. And I have found that they do look to me to guide stuff and help stuff happen because they know what my role is locally, being one of the local vicars, priests, pastors, whatever. They call me all sorts of names. All polite, I will add. Well, to my face anyway. But they're doing this. And we had the street party. It was amazing. I'm sure actually everybody came. There was about 50 houses by that point, and I met people that I hadn't connected with yet. And at the street party, there was a conversation about, well, how can we keep connected and have conversations? And people were saying, could we set up a WhatsApp community group? And I knew nothing about that. And I said, right, I'll try and work out how that will work. And we've got that now. We're over 100 houses now. And we've got this amazing, really active WhatsApp group. Sometimes there's a lot of chat about cats, but it's a connection.
People complain about parking because I know our local group is often 90% about someone's parking or a strange bunch of youth trying to sell mops.
Yeah, you do get that as well. You do get that as well. But it's just that sense of being alongside people, and it's been really helpful for people at times when people have felt unnerved by something when there's been someone around that they don't know, and so it just connects people, doesn't it?
Can I ask, and I realize this might be a red herring, but it struck me because it's new housing as opposed to sort of established estate ministry or even like established villages and that kind of thing. How much do you think people are more open to community or less open to community because of the fact it's new housing and it's a new estate? Does that play into that at all, or not at all?
Yeah, definitely. That's what we found, and we hadn't really thought that was a thing, and it's definitely a thing. People have moved. Some have only moved from just, within the parish, really, from Sinfin, where we are. Some people have moved quite locally. Some people have moved from the other side of Derby City. But we've also there's a family who moved directly from Nigeria.
Way.
And there's a lot of people who have come from quite a long way away. But even though some know this community or the relative local community already, it seems to be that when you move house, it's a key thing in your life.
Yeah.
And it's a key time to reevaluate what you're doing, whether that be socially, whether that be work-wise, just everything. It's sort of like as if everything's been thrown up in the air. If you've ever moved house, you know that that's exactly how it feels, because it's all dropped down and you've no idea where anything is. But it seems to be this mental position that you find yourself in. New place, a new thinking, new people. And I'm sure that is key to the ministry that we're doing here, and the reaching out to this community. It's because it's brand new and people are really open to that.
Really?
And I've said it before, that there's this sense of wanting to belong here with these people in this place. What does it actually look like to live here?
Yeah. That's really exciting. I can imagine I can imagine you're bubbling over, seeing the potential of what can happen and what might happen, and where the Spirit might be blowing, like actually literally, and figuratively and spiritually. Let me ask then about what. Again, I realize, because you've said already that this is very new and you're still figuring out what it looks like and where it's going. What does it currently look like? Well, tell me a little bit about what day to day sort of you find yourself doing, and what the community that you're seeing forming, or the community of faith loosely that you're seeing forming. What does that look like? And sort of bearing in mind, again, context of our audience, people thinking about some people will be familiar with fresh expressions and that it can be anything, but a lot of people who won't be familiar will just think of it as being churches, just the one thing of being in a big old dusty building with pews. So in that context, what does it look like? And have you got a vision as to where you think it might be going? Caveat, it could be very different in 6 months' time, a year's time. But yeah, what do you think?
So I think there's two aspects here. There's the community, which is a secular thing. It's the people that are in this place. Our intention here is to build, grow, encourage a new worshipping community. And we have no idea what that will look like. And that is our intention, to have no idea what it will look like, to literally be led by what the reality is on the ground.
Right.
And we had no idea timescales either. So it became apparent that community building in itself, as in building a community here, was happening quite quickly.
Right.
And within that, I was starting to meet people who were Christians that were moving onto the estate. And there's always this, when you've got this intention of a new worshipping community, you can't help but start to imagine what it may look like. But we're limited by what we've experienced before. And as you said, we have this, I grew up in a Christian family. So I've grown up going to church on a Sunday morning. That is my understanding of church. So I've been really, really challenged to think differently about what church could be. So I sort of thought, let's gather some of these Christians together, see if they're willing to gather and just start to pray and talk and get to know each other and see where that leads. So I had a chat with one family. Well, it actually started with, I had this bright idea of doing a Lent group, because that's very church, isn't it?
Cool.
And that might gather the Christians together. And I put it out on the WhatsApp, and one family said, oh yeah, we'd love to do that, but because we've got small children, we'll alternate each week. And the result was one came one week and one came the other, and that was it. So I said to them, look, this isn't really working, is it? Let me have a rethink and I'll come up with something else. If you have any ideas, shout out. So I recognised instantly that that had failed, but that's fine. We try things, it doesn't work, that's okay. And I thought, well, actually, people like to gather over food. So I said to this family, would it work with you if you bought the boys? And we had, you know, jacket potatoes, we gathered, and there's a couple of other people that I know who are Christians on the estate. And they were like, yeah, that'd be brilliant. So I messaged, had a chat with a few people, and the week of Easter, so the other end of Lent, I gathered those people together at my house for jacket potatoes. They bought the toppings, and there was 13 of us that gathered.
Yeah.
From the youngest was 7, the oldest was much older. And it was Holy Week. It felt significant. And someone said to me, there's 13 of you, that feels a bit significant, Fiona, you know.
The number.
Yeah. Which hadn't twigged with me at all. And it was really lovely. And we just ate together. We used table talk as a conversational. So for those that don't know table talk, it's just cards that you pick one off the pile and it's a question and it just starts conversation. And there's one for families. So the 2 youngest, who are 7 and 10, they were picking the cards off and they were hosting that bit for us. And it was just a way of getting to know each other better. And we decided that we'd do it the next month as well, which we did. And we shared bread and wine, not in an official communion way. There were no special words. We all recognised what we were doing. And I think I just said, let's do this to remember why we're gathering. But one of the key things with that was, and I didn't mention, I forgot. How can I forget this? It's a key thing. So just before we gathered that first time in Holy Week, I was meeting for a cup of coffee with 2 of the ladies off the estate who are the doers of everything around here. And I just happened to mention, some of us that are Christians are gathering next week for just a meal, jacket potatoes, and we're just going to explore what it means maybe here to have a faith and maybe think about what it would be to gather as Christians. So that's really exciting for me. And they looked at each other. Neither of them had any background in church. No faith. And they just looked at each other. And one of them said, can I come? And the other one, yeah, I'd be really interested actually. And I went, you sure can.
Nice.
And it was just a throwaway comment from me. My intention hadn't been to encourage them to come. God's intention had been to encourage them to come. And they've been to every one. I think we're coming up for our 5th one next week.
Wow.
And one of those ladies is hosting it this time.
Amazing. It's really interesting, the intentionality of sort of being open and seeing what happens. I think sometimes we can be quite rigorous and sort of even those of us who are open to doing things creatively, we are still always influenced, like you were getting at. We're influenced by how we're brought up and our traditions that we came up in, and so just letting the Spirit do the Spirit things. And what happens? It's a common pattern, isn't it? And so really, really lovely to hear the stuff that you're just like, well, let's see if this happens. And then that blows up and starts becoming this thing it's hugely exciting. Let me ask though, because I think one of the things, and this won't be a surprise to you, but as you said, you're a 3rd year curate, Church of England curate. And, I resonate with that because my wife is also a 3rd year Church of England curate. And so that comes with all sorts of responsibilities with the Church of England and accountabilities and all the wonderful, beautiful structures that come with part of that training and all of that. How do you manage? Because there within all the big denominations, there are expectations. And also there's like I've said before, there's sometimes people don't quite get it, whether that's those people who are in charge or that you're accountable to or not. Sometimes it's just people in the parish next door don't get it. How do you compute this stuff? How do you translate what you're doing as a ministry to those people?
Yeah, It doesn't come as a surprise, that question, because that's one of the massive challenges. And what we've tried to do here is to begin to explore. I'm going to use the word model, but I don't like the word model because there is no model here. We're not creating something or looking into something that can be used somewhere else. It's something that could potentially inspire people to do something along these lines or try it themselves. But we've been sort of working on a model because we're Church of England. We are within a parish. We're very lucky that this new housing is all within our parish boundary, and for Church of England that is makes life easier. It shouldn't make any difference really whether you're crossing parish boundaries, but it does within the Church of England. So we've been working on what phrase people might have heard, mixed ecology. So the inherited church, so the church of this parish, is the church that I am training within. So I do a lot of stuff there as well. But we are working on this mixed ecology of lots of different expressions of church that are different but are connected. So within this parish, we have a worshipping community that gathers on a Sunday in a building. We also have a worshipping community that gathers at different times of the week in a local residential care home.
Wow.
And our intention is to have a worshipping community that is gathering in different ways down here on the new housing, but we're all connected. So that helps with safeguarding. It helps with finance, that the parish is financially supporting this at this stage. And that's a decision that it's an LEP, so the Church Council agreed to support it financially.
What does LEP stand for?
Sorry, Local Ecumenical Partnership. So we're Anglican, Methodist and URC, which is exciting because we have input from all those denominations as well.
Yeah.
So it helps with accountability. It helps with prayer support and all that. But that's the way we are seeing how a fresh expression of church can be supported, held accountable, and have safeguarding support as well surrounding it.
Right.
In this mixed ecology within this area, which just happens because I'm Church of England to be a parish. So we're all connected in, but it all looks so very different.
Tell me, you've spoken a little bit about challenges. What other, if anything, we may have covered them, but yeah, tell me a little bit about the other challenges that you've experienced.
I mean, some of the challenges for me personally has been that thinking out of the box and changing my thinking about what church is and reading about that and helping myself to understand a bit more about that. But also that feeling, there's so many times when I feel like I'm doing nothing because I'm doing that listening part of the fresh expression cycle, that just being here. And we're so wired for doing, and we don't give enough credit to the just being. So that personally was a massive challenge when I first started here. And I was banned from church as well on a Sunday. That was a challenge. So the vicar that I worked with said, yeah, you're not allowed here on Sunday, every other Sunday. And I literally sat here and thought, what do I do?
Wow.
I've gone to church on a Sunday morning for my entire life. What do I do? And, I began prayer walking and just being, going for a wander. And so it's a personal challenge of our own thinking.
Right.
But also, as you inferred as well, there's a challenge of people not getting it.
Yeah.
And there's this gravitational pull back to the inherited.
Right.
You still get people saying, but when will they come to church on Sunday? No, that's not what this is about.
Right.
This is about people finding God where they are and that is accessible to them in the lives that they are leading. People that would never cross the threshold of a church because maybe of past experience or misconceptions.
Wow.
The number of times that people have said to me here, and I take it as a compliment, "Oh, you're not what we expected from a vicar, Fiona."
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's that, you know, we're breaking down misconceptions, we're breaking down barriers to people getting to hear God's story just by being where they are, as
Yeah.
opposed to asking them to come to be where we are, and shaping it around the way people are comfortable, instead of saying, well, this is how we do it, this is how it's done. But a lot of people sort of higher up in the hierarchy don't get that, because how do you measure that? How on earth do you measure that?
Yeah. I think it is worth mentioning, because this is something that comes up time and time again, especially for people who are pioneering in the Church of England, right? Where, and I think it's part of the fact that the Church of England is such, I was going to use the word ancient institution, but I guess it is. But I don't mean that negatively, because I've certainly grown to appreciate the Church of England and all of its systems and structures for some of the stuff that is really, really helpful. The fact that it's a network of communities in every single town and all that sort of stuff. All that stuff's incredible. But we know with the bigger the organization, the harder it is for change to happen. And that's okay. And I think I've sort of, with people I speak to within the Church of England, and even people with other some of the other bigger denominations who struggle to get their head around this thing, and these ideas of doing it differently and not measuring in the same way. And when they ask those questions, but how do you measure? I'm just saying, well, we don't measure, not in that way. But I think it's trying to translate into, this isn't a threat to the status quo necessarily. I always like to quote Sean Doherty from Trinity College, where my wife studied, who always had the phrase both and. It's both the traditional forms of church and the established forms of church, and it's giving space for these new things to form. Yeah. Because those new things will form the future of the church as well. And it might only be a flavor, but that's okay. But in the context that you are in and other practitioners are in, it's really important that those are not rogue entities of the church. They are really important parts of the church where people are being ministered to, and people who would not hear the story of the gospel are hearing. And that's really important, even if it's one. Leaving the 99 for the one, it's all part of that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, realize we're running out of time here. Good sign, good chats. Tell me that again, in the context of pioneering, again, I ask people ask people the same question. Pioneering tends to be a lonely place, because again, most people are coming from an established denomination, but doing something different. And so sometimes there's not necessarily the same support depending on what people are doing. Sometimes there's lots of support. And so regardless of what little or abundant support you're getting, how do you keep yourself well in this space of being a pioneer, out on your own, doing this stuff differently?
That is one of the challenges. It can feel like a very lonely place to be. And I suppose our model, that word that I don't like, with being a mixed ecology, it is brilliant in this context, in that I've got the support of the church community within this locality. So to be connected in with a worshipping community that is already established is a real support, both spiritually and, knowing they've got my back and they're praying for me. That is brilliant. But I talk a different language to them and have to be careful how I present things, because I talk a different language. So I found I've connected in with pioneer networks, connected in with CMS, which is the Christian Mission Society. Just having a sense of belonging for yourself with people who think like you and are talking in the same way, that talk the same language. And I think that's really important, to be connected either locally with other pioneers. That's not always the case, that you've got many, Within the Church of England, there is something called Greenhouse, which is a network to support people who are working at new worshipping communities or fresh expressions. So I found that really brilliant to be connected in with. So I'm meeting people locally who are working in completely different contexts, but trying to reach out to people and do church in a different way. So that finding your people, find your tribe to be there to support you. And I really, really commend people to do that, because it can be lonely.
Yeah.
As we come into land, because we're nearly up with our time, my favorite question, not my favorite question, a significant question, is we know people listening to this will be at different stages of considering what fresh expressions is to them. Some people will be where you referred to the fresh expressions journey before, about being at the listening stage. Other people are at different stages in that. Some people will be at the do it again stage. And then indeed, there's going to be some people who will be listening who might be like, I'm not satisfied with how church works, and I think this might be for me, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Or they may have little nuggets of ideas. To those people, which I realize is a great swathe of people, what do you say to them to inspire them to give it a go, do it again, crack on, keep on trucking, whatever it might be?
I'd say that if you feel God is calling you to either a particular context or to explore a different way of doing church, obviously, first of all, pray in that context. If it's a particular context, prayer walk that context. Find others, talk to people, Christians that you know who may also hold this same interest as well. So find people that you can do this with, so it's not so lonely, but who you can bounce ideas off. And just go for it, because if it's of God, God's there already. We are joining in with what God's already doing. So just go for it. And it's a risk, but if it flops, if it fails, that doesn't matter, because you're exploring, and just see where God leads you, because it can be to amazing things. And we have no idea what comes next. So just go for it, is what I'd say.
Amazing. Fiona Barber, thank you so much. That has been brilliant. Some wonderful little nuggets for me to take away, and I'm sure for others to take away. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us. And we, the team of Fresh Expressions, will be praying for you. Praying that you see what God's doing, and that you keep in tune with that as clearly you already are. But be blessed. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a real joy. Thank you.
Awesome. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Fiona mentioned greenhouses or greenhouse as part of the Church of England. If you want to find out more about that, go to churchofengland.org/fresh-expressions. If you want to connect with us, you can do so via our socials and through our main website. All of that is on freshexpressions.org.uk. And finally, if you've been inspired by what you've heard today, but you're unsure of where to start, Godsend is our amazing toolkit for creating new Christian communities. So visit godsend.cloud. Take care.